Kids, it's time for an update. And this is a video that's going to be very specific. It's called My Adventure at Lowe's. Kids, now you know I hate shopping. Absolutely hate it. Never like to go for any reason. I will occasionally get lost in a supermarket, but otherwise I just don't have the shopping gene. It's just not in me. And I'm A, not mechanical, and I'm B, know nothing about construction. So you put me in Lowe's and I'm absolutely lost. Have no idea what's going on and could care less. Tune out. So, for those that have been to my house in the last several years, my house was built in the 50s. So it's like older than dirt. And my front door was last changed probably in the early 70s, I think, if ever. And it's a wooden door, and over the years it has lost its luster and constantly swells and shrinks depending on the temperature and the humidity. And as you know, in Central Florida, or you might not know, we have extreme swings in temperatures and humidity levels in Central Florida. So we have hard winters that are dry, and hot, sticky, disgusting summers that you just can't get away from yourself fast enough. So it was time for us to get a new front door. So off the gatekeeper went to go start the process. Now, I don't know anything about the process. Didn't want to, could have cared less. Didn't have any objection to getting a door. Didn't want to pick one out. That's whatever, a door. Just put the door in the house. That's what I thought. I would have to go one time, pay the bill, and I'd be done. Didn't have to even think about it. So this is what's supposed to happen is that you're supposed to go have a consultation, pay a fee, then somebody comes out and inspects the existing door space and the existing situation, and then takes those measurements back to Lowe's. This is a subcontractor that does that, or a vendor of Lowe's, not a Lowe's employee. Come out to your house, do all that stuff, take it back. The millage or whatever department, millwork department, writes up an estimate or writes up a contract, and then you sign it and pay for it, and then all the things happen. And in case of older houses, you have to get a permit because my house was built long before hurricane standards and all that kind of stuff. So they want to make sure that the frame and everything is just right, because now it has to be impact resistant, hurricane resistant front door. And we got it in metal because we got a steel front door because we don't want any swelling. We're just tired of that. No, done enough. Had enough of that for years. So we're getting a steel front door. And great. I mean, easy care, right? So after what's supposed to happen is that, okay, so after you do this, then the guy comes out, does that, then you sign the contract, then they send the paperwork to the county, and they make sure they get the door and the handle and all that kind of stuff ready to roll, and all the installation stuff. And then when that's all done and the permit's ready, they come out, they call you, they come out to the house, they take the old door off, put the new door in, and then somebody comes swooping out and inspects it, and end of discussion. Supposed to be kind of an easy thing. Well, not so much in the outback of Florida, of course. So the $51 fee to have the house, the door measured or whatever, came, and the guy came, and he was nice enough, and he got his job done. And then he said it was going to be 2 to 3 weeks because of the holidays, and probably is going to happen after New Year's, yada, 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 yada. And bam, done. So didn't think anything else of it. Then On the 23rd, something happened at Lowe's, which still hasn't been explained, which I'm dying to find out at the end of the day what happened, but right now, still a mystery. I'll get to that in a second. And they refunded the initial money that the gatekeeper put for the inspection or the measurement thing. So instead of like putting a note or explaining what they were doing, they just put it in a non-Lowe's marked envelope, just a handwritten envelope with a receipt that showed a refund for $51 at Lowe's, and didn't explain what it was for or why or anything, or what that had to do with the price of tea in China. Now, because it was Christmas, we got it on the 24th, nobody was rushing to Lowe's to deal with that because we had company. So, Christmas came, went, blah, blah, blah. The 26th, we just kind of hung out. So yesterday, Sunday, we went after work to Lowe's to pay the bill for the door because both of us had downtime and it was convenient. And it was quiet. So we decided we were going to go to Lowe's because it was open and pay for the door, not knowing what this process was. And when we got there, we found everything wrong. They didn't have any paperwork for us. The store manager wrote in the computer in notes that I had contacted him, the customer, had contacted him personally, I guess, I don't know, and that I canceled the whole deal, the whole installation. So I found that interesting because I know I hallucinate and I know I go off on, crazy, schizoaffective fucking, adventures, but I'm usually kind of cognizant if I pick up the phone and call somebody, or if I go out of the house, let's say in person to Lowe's, I'm usually aware. I don't normally just sleepwalk over to Lowe's and cancel door installation orders and then sleepwalk all the way back and not remember. And I don't even recall having a dream about this door. Now, from the moment that this whole process started until last night when I got to the store, I had not so much as opened my mouth to discuss this to anyone, including the gatekeeper. I just sat and listened and shook my head like a well-beaten husband is supposed to do. Yes, dear, yes, dear, yes, dear. I just yes, deared it to death. So, and most people know I'm pretty laid back. I don't care about most things. I'm very disengaged and indifferent. So you can paint the house, change the furniture, do whatever you want. I'm going to go, Every once in a while I'll speak up about something, but it's rare. And usually when I do, because it's so rare, people forget to listen to me, but that's a big mistake. And that's a whole other video. But anyway, so we get to Lowe's last night and we have to push the button, wait for somebody to come. The automatic system paged somebody to come to our area 4 times before somebody finally came. And it keeps adding a ding, ding, ding. It adds more dings every time they have to do it. So I guess it's like an internal system or something. But finally somebody came, was completely unable to find our paperwork. Noticed in the computer that we were refunded. We no longer had any business with Lowe's or a contract or anything. And then they called for this manager. Now this manager, to be polite, had all the charm of a dirty paper towel. She appeared or felt to be perhaps lesbian. I don't know, but I just got that vibe. I got the dyke vibe from her, and she was mean and very misinformed and had no business being a manager because she didn't know how to speak to customers. But I let her dig a hole, and then I showed her she was digging a hole, and I showed her what she was doing wrong, but then she continued to do it for a long time. And it was mortifying as a customer. So here I am just trying to pay my bill that doesn't exist now because the store manager, who's now on vacation, which I didn't need to know, did this on the 23rd of December, right before he ran out the door to go on vacation. And no one seems to know why, and he's on vacation, so nobody can find out. But instead of just fixing it, I had to go through this diatribe for close to an hour. I think it was about an hour of hearing the following. First of all, it must have been a communication problem, which means that would make it partially my fault because it takes two people to communicate. And since the computer said I canceled it, she assumed that I had communicated, to which I had to point out to her very brusquely, considering the fact I have never opened my mouth on this topic yet once in my lifetime until this very second, it's impossible for it to be a communication problem because I've never communicated. I have never opened my mouth. I didn't even think about it. So it's not a communication error, it's a mistake. And it's clearly on your part. First of all, for mischaracterizing it, and second of all, because you are the representative of Lowe's management right here, right now. To which she got stunned and head back and realized she got put in her place, and then she got all man-hatey and nastier, and she apologized for misspeaking, and she gave out that vibe, and I just sat there and I just looked at her, and I said that was her key to stop playing with me, but she just didn't want to get that. So then we continued on talking, and she informed me that I was lucky that she was even there, because she was filling in for somebody else, as if that's my problem or I could care less. And she also told me that even though the store is open, that they don't do business on Sunday nights after holidays, even though the store is open, which made no sense to me. Now, I had no idea of all this because on the sign on the door says store hours. It doesn't say store hours if you want to buy laundry detergent and birdseed and a shovel for one thing, and then if you want to do other things, there's other store hours. There's nothing that indicates that. So as far as a consumer is concerned, like an idiot like me, you should be able to walk into Lowe's at any time and do anything. Now, apparently that's not the case. But they have yet to make the customers aware of this, but I was made aware of it last night. Then I had to hear about her staffing issues, how short she was on staff because it's after the holidays and people needed time off and yada, yada, yada. Again, none of my concern. But more flack, more excuse, more bullshit, more of my valuable time, and I charge by the minute. So I'm sitting here listening to her. So then she goes and tells me, well, maybe they canceled it. So now she starts to speculate. Now, I love people that speculate because it doesn't mean shit. It either is or it isn't. I don't need speculation. I need results. And don't confuse efforts with results. I want results. So instead of giving me results, she gave me more bullshit. So she said, well, we don't work with just anyone, which again, that doesn't say that on the door. And we have standards, whatever that means. So I said, okay, well, what's that? I said, do you get a list of that? Is it part of the contract? Is that discussed in the initial consultation? Because this is the first I've heard of this. And she goes, well, we take it on a case-by-case basis. I said, okay, well, give me a scenario where you might not install a door. So she said, well, maybe your house is just too old, and we can't install doors on old houses. So I said, you mean to tell me that if my house is too old, I have to bulldoze the house down and rebuild it before you can install a front door? I've never heard of anything like that. There's historic houses all over the world, and no one's ever had to bulldoze them down to change the front door. It just doesn't make any sense. So I actually said that to her, and she goes, well, that's not exactly what I meant. I said, but that's exactly what you just said. Because what else could you do? You can't give your house a facelift. You can't rejuvenate it. There's no fountain of youth to sprinkle water on it and make it younger. If it's too old, you just would have to get rid of it and build a new one. There's no other logical conclusion to what you just said. So then she was like, oh, she got mad at me again. So, and she still wouldn't stop. So then we go on after we hear some more bullshit from her. And she tells me, well, I can't get into the office, and I don't know this, and I don't know that, and nothing can be done until tomorrow, and it's everybody else's fault but hers, and all this other crap. And I'm like, okay, really? Now, can I pay the bill? No, you can't pay the bill because there's no bill to pay. Yeah. So, okay. Finally, I leave totally pissed. I'll just flat out say it. I was in a great mood all week, nice, calm, quiet, getting ready for my trip, pondering packing, ordering meals on the plane, all this kind of shit. And this is the last thing I want to deal with at all, just in general. But at this time, when I'm getting so close to a trip, I really don't want to deal with it. So I left. And this morning at 9:43, I informed the gatekeeper that Lowe's had yet to call, and they've had 43 minutes of business time or business hours or whatever, according to the Angry Dyke, that they could resolve this issue, but I haven't heard from them. So we called the contractor, the guy that came out and measured the shit that's going to put the door in. And he informed us that Lowe's had called him early in the morning, bitching and screaming at him, accusing him of not doing his job and never coming over to our house and measuring the door. Which is preposterous because we told the angry lesbian at least 8 times last night that the guy had come. He was very nice, very professional. We had no problem with him. He did his job. But somehow this morning, and we still don't know how that happened, they called up and chewed this guy out. Now, that bothered me. And it bothered me for a reason. Because this guy is going to come back to my house and install the front door, which is kind of an important part of the house. Now, if he thinks that I'm that fucking crazy that I'm calling bitching at Lowe's because he wasn't there when he was there, and I'm a complete asshole, and that I'm just a total dickhead, and I'm just trying to make his life miserable, he's going to hate me. Now he's going to come back to my house. That's potentially dangerous for me. Think about it logically. Run the logic all the way down the rails to the end. What would you think if this is your livelihood and some asshole you've been told is lying on you and making your life a total shit? Now, this is what Lowe's did, not me, Lowe's, all by themselves this morning. So I called up the manager of the department, the installation department. So I called up the manager of the installation department, and he had this rather cranky voice and intimidating, and again, kind of sounded like the lesbian. He was just not happy, didn't seem to like me, and was not putting up with any of this. So I insisted that we have a face-to-face meeting today. And he informed me that he was busy in the morning, but he could see me in the afternoon and grant me an audience. And his voice just grated on my very fabric of my soul. Because the last thing I wanted to hear was another angry bully bitching at me because somebody there screwed up something. So in the interim, I called Lowe's Corporate. And I got on the phone with this nice lady named Alice, who was completely delightful, and I asked to have an audience with the district manager, or district whatever they call it, the guy above the store manager. Because the store manager has already lied and said he's talked to me and I canceled the door, which is impossible. Because if he has videotape of that happening, audio or video, I'm checking myself into a nursing home. Because I've obviously completely lost my marbles to the point where I'm not functional. But I'm waiting for that evidence. He comes back next week. So I asked to speak to a district, have an audience with a district manager, either in person, on the phone, email, Skype, didn't matter. I just wanted to communicate this situation because I couldn't believe it was still going on. So Alice said, well, tell me the story. So I told Alice the story, and I heard gasps and laughs and oh my gods and you're kidding me's and everything else as I was speaking to her. And then at the end, when I was wrapping it up, the song "Don't Bring Me Down" by ELO started playing in my head. And every time I've had a thought of Lowe's, that song just turns on now. It's creepy. So, literally. So when I had to go today for the meeting, that song just kept playing in my head like a loop. Don't bring me down. Oh, 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 oh. So, so I went to my meeting today, and before I went to my meeting, I discovered that something had potentially been overlooked, which was how many holes are in the door. And I was only shown one doorknob, but I wasn't shown a deadbolt. And then I went to look at the door. I saw there was 2 holes, but then they had this other like long handle thing that one's just a fake part of a handle. It was just one lock, and I prefer to have 2. So then I had to find somebody that could verify whether I could have 2 or just 1 or what the deal was, and had we ordered the right thing. So this guy tried to help us out, and then I had to go to my meeting. So I went and met the guy, and after like a minute after he met me, I mean, maybe 30 seconds after he met me, his voice changed. He didn't sound mean and nasty and grouchy and horrible like he did on the phone. He actually smiled and was kind of wide-eyed, to say the least. So I asked if we could sit down somewhere and discuss this tragedy, this unfolding tragedy that's going on, that's completely unnecessary. So we sat down and I asked him, and so he said, well, I have your contract, we'll go over it. Do you have any questions first? I said, yes, I have a question. Could you please explain to me how this thing's supposed to work? Let's say, forget what's happened with me, we'll discuss that later. But how's it supposed to work? So he explained point by point who does what, when, where, why, and how, which was never explained to anybody in this situation before. So I suggested to him after he finished, I said, perhaps you should explain the whole situation, or give people a paper to read when they get into this to begin with, so they know what to expect. Then I started picking apart questions like, can you really deny me because my house is too old? And is this true? And is all that what that crazy woman was telling me the night before? And he was just shaking his head. And then he was talking about, then he said something, and I finished his sentence because he was going to say something about staffing. I said, yes, I've heard all about your staffing issues. As a matter of fact, last night I couldn't even sleep for worry. I sat there and wrote a new schedule for you. And he laughed. So I got him. He was very amused by the way I look at life, and also said I had a point about 7 times. And oh, I forgot the best one about the woman, the angry woman. She told me, I said, you know, I don't want to have to keep coming down here for this, for nothing, for this door and wasting my time. And I led her right over the cliff, and she barked at me, well, I don't want to see you any more than I have to. Now, this is a big box retailer that works for the public. So, but she jumped over the cliff, And then within about 45 seconds, she realized what she had just said. And then she said, but, I certainly want you to come here and shop as much as you want. I said, well, I hate shopping, and I don't feel comfortable here at all anymore after your previous remarks. So, yeah, no, we both agree. I don't want to see you, and you don't want to see me. So, and he was mortified. He was mortified by all of it. And he couldn't explain why the store manager put in the remark that I canceled the door, and he said, I'll have to wait at least a week for that. So then we went and we verified the doorknob situation, and we went to the door and verified the door and doorknob situation. Then we went through the contract, and I'm line item by line item by line item, made sure it was all cool, made sure everything was in the computer, we printed things up, the whole 9 yards. And he did his best to really make up for what has been so far a unforgettable dog and pony show. And then I got a nice discount for my trouble and the insults and everything else that I got in this process. And, and he offered me a job. I said, as what? Corporate clown? A secret shopper? Murphy's Law tester? What is it that you want me to do? And he left. So anyway, hopefully my door will be here sometime between the 18th and the 1st of February, I guess. And I asked him if I could sleep with anybody to make it faster, and he nearly lost his shit, but he held it together somehow. And he's like, he wanted to burst out, but he really had to keep his decorum. And he said, well, I'll have to look into that for you. So yeah, it was kind of fun. So then we went and paid a small fortune, which was about twice what I was told it was going to cost. So that was kind of a surprise, even with the discount, which was nice. It wasn't over the top generous, but it was nice. It was nice. Any discounts appreciated. It was expensive. And so I have like this door coming that is supposedly just a standard door, but it costs more to put it in than the door costs. Who knew? By a lot. Like 2/3 of the cost is just paperwork and installation and shit. So, and deinstalling the old door, which I don't know how hard that could be. All you have to do is just pull the 2 screws out and throw it in the front yard and light it on fire because it's wood. But anyway, I digress. So that's the deal. That's what's going on with my Lowe's. And so for people that follow me on Facebook, now you know. And tomorrow, before noon, I'm supposed to get a contact from the district manager. And I can't wait to tell him this story again, because I still can't believe it, and there's still things that they're still investigating which they can't explain. And as much as I love being the UFO in the room, it does get tiring, especially when I'm spending a lot of money. So that's it, kids. It's been nice talking to you. I got to share my Lowe's adventure. I don't know why I just can't go anywhere and just have things work the way they're supposed to, but that's part of the adventure of being in my life. This is how my whole life has gone. Everything, the most mundane things become these way out wacky adventures, and I really don't do anything to start it, but yet I'm the one that's insane. Ponder that. Talk to you later.